If you ever want to see how crazy a quiet, gated neighborhood can get, just put snow chains on your truck and try to go to work. Apparently, that's all it takes. I thought I was fighting ice on the roads. Turns out I was about to fight something way slipperier. And no, it wasn't black ice. It was a woman in a designer coat with a laminated rulebook and way too much time. It was January 2025 in Cascade Heights, Colorado. Pretty little gated community tucked into the foothills outside Boulder. The kind of place with pristine asphalt, matching mailboxes, and HOA bylaws thicker than a phone book. We just gotten slammed with 18 inches of powder overnight. I've been pulling a 36-hour shift at the fire station. Accidents, heart attacks, carbon monoxide scares, you name it. My eyes burned. My shoulders felt like concrete, and my F-350's tire chains were rattling against the wheel wells as I crawled into my driveway like a man returning from war. I shut the engine off and just sat there for a second, forehead on the steering wheel, listening to that ticking sound engines make when they cool, that soft metallic pinging, thinking about my bed like it was heaven. Then I saw her, Patricia Morrison, HOA president, marching across my yard like she was invading Normandy, boots stabbing into fresh snow. Folder clutched her chest. Jeremy Hutchinson, she called, voice sharp enough to slice the wind. We need to talk about those chains. I blinked at her, salt-stained uniform still on, hands cracked from cold. Ma'am, I just got off a 36-hour shift. Can this wait? It cannot. She flipped open her sacred text, Section 7, Subsection 4. No chains, no studded tires, nothing that might harm the pristine asphalt surfaces. She said pristine like it was a national monument. I'm a paramedic and firefighter, I told her. Those chains are the only reason I can get up and down this hill in a storm. That's not my problem, she said. You have 24 hours, or it's $500 per day. $500 per day for metal wrapped around rubber in a blizzard. I remember staring at her and thinking this woman really believes this is more important than whether I can respond when someone calls 911. I'm emergency services, I said. When you're off duty, she replied coolly, you're just another resident. That was Act 1. I slept 18 hours straight, woke up to missed calls and a voicemail from the HOA office reminding me to confirm compliance. I showered, ate, and walked back outside to my truck. The chains were still there. Roads still ice-packed. Forecast calling for more snow. Removing them wasn't inconvenient. It was dangerous. So I called Deputy Mike Reynolds at the county sheriff's office. Can an HOA stop me from using tire chains on a vehicle registered as emergency response? Long pause. Typing. Short answer. No. Colorado law exempts emergency vehicles during declared weather emergencies. If your truck's registered, they can't touch you. I felt the first flicker of relief. Except Patricia Morrison did not care about flickers of relief. By the time Wednesday rolled around, she'd stacked up thousands in fines and projected photos of my truck like it was evidence in a murder trial. I walked into that HOA meeting carrying state statutes and a calm I didn't fully feel. She showed the board photographic evidence of my crime, my truck in my driveway in snow. I laid out the law. Governor had declared a state of emergency. My truck was registered emergency response. The statute was clear. Richard Chun, the vice president, read the statute and frowned. I think he's right. Patricia snapped. The rules are the rules. The law supersedes HOA bylaws, I said evenly. You could feel the air shift in that room. That electric tension when authority starts cracking. They tabled it. She kept the fines active. The next morning, she called the sheriff's office trying to get me cited. Then she called the county administrator claiming I was abusing emergency registration. Then she filed a zoning complaint saying I was running a business out of my house. It stopped being about chains. It became personal. And here's where the twist came in, because I thought I was just dealing with an overzealous HOA president drunk on minor authority. Turns out she was spiraling. I didn't know that yet. What I knew was that one night at 2 a.m., I heard a car idling outside my house. I looked out the window, headlights off, engine running. Something about it made the hair on my neck stand up. I called it in. Deputy Garcia rolled up, ran the plates. It was Patricia. She'd been sitting outside my house taking photos. That's when I stopped playing defense. My attorney filed for a restraining order. Courtroom smelled like old paper and coffee. Judge Carolyn Foster listened to everything. The fines, the false complaints, the midnight surveillance. She took off her glasses and looked at Patricia. This goes beyond HOA duties. This is harassment. Temporary restraining order granted. And just like that, the woman who tried to fine me into submission couldn't come within shouting distance. Community divided. Some neighbors thought I'd gone too far. Others quietly thanked me. Richard Chun eventually pushed through the exemption officially, and Patricia was overruled. But she didn't stop. She sent me a personal lawsuit threat for $5,000. Harassment and slander, she claimed. My lawyer laughed. This is intimidation. Then came the code enforcement complaint. Then more rumors. And then something shifted. At a follow-up hearing, Patricia stood there looking smaller. Tired, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. She apologized. Said she'd been going through a divorce. Lost her job. Was in therapy. She resigned as HOA president. The judge extended the order 6 months. I walked out of that courthouse feeling not victorious. Just drained. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. Because about a year later, we got a medical call in Cascade Heights. Unconscious female. Possible overdose. Address popped up on the screen. Patricia Morrison. We ran that call like any other. I didn't hesitate, didn't even think about it. Muscle memory took over. Gloves snapped on. For line. Naloxone. Monitor. She was on her living room floor, pill bottles scattered like confetti. When her eyes fluttered open, she recognized me. Just for a second. Then she went out again. We got her stabilized. Transported. She survived. Her ex-husband grabbed my arm outside. Thank you, he said. After everything. I shrugged. It's my job. And that was the moment something inside me shifted. I'd wanted justice. I'd gotten it. The law backed me. The board backed me. The court backed me. But kneeling on her carpet, fighting to keep her alive, I realized something ugly and complicated. Sometimes the people who try to control everything are the ones whose own lives feel completely out of control. That doesn't excuse what she did. Not even close. But explains it. She moved out of Cascade Heights not long after. The restraining order expired quietly. Richard became a solid HOA president. They updated the bylaws properly. Nobody ever complained about my chains again. In fact, the board gave me a community service award that spring, which felt ironic as hell. A plaque for surviving a war over snow chains. Now when winter rolls around and I hear that metallic rattle against the wheel wells, it doesn't sound like conflict anymore. It sounds like readiness. Here's the lesson I learned, and it didn't come from the courtroom. It came from that living room floor. Being right isn't enough. Having the law on your side isn't enough. You can win every argument and still lose something if you let bitterness take root. You stand your ground, yes. You document everything, absolutely. You use the legal system when you have to. But you don't let someone else's breakdown turn you into a smaller person. Power, even tiny power like an HOA presidency, reveals what's already inside someone. And pain, untreated, spreads. Karma showed up in its own time. She lost her position, faced a judge, faced herself. The community moved on. The rules got fixed. I kept my chains. I kept my job. I kept my integrity. That's the part I'm proud of. And here's the question that still rattles around in my head louder than those chains ever did. Where's the line between enforcing rules and abusing power? At what point does community standards turn into control? And how do you push back without becoming just as toxic? Because we've all dealt with a Patricia at some point, maybe at work, maybe in a neighborhood, maybe in our own family. So what would you have done? Would you have let it go to keep the peace? Or would you have fought like I did? Drop your thoughts below. I genuinely want to hear where you draw that line. And if you've ever had to stand up to someone who thought they were untouchable. And if winter's coming where you live, make sure your chains are ready.